So welcome back.
Welcome back to DAO Day. Welcome back. I hope you had a very good lunch and you're ready for the next sessions. And so, what's going to happen next is another very cool panel. And we're going to have three people offline on stage. Oh, sorry. I made my first big mistake today. Sorry. Anyway,
So we have
happens.
Marta from ConsenSys, and Marta is gonna do a keynote, and she's joining us online. And Astra will tell you more about what she's gonna talk about, and we can see you, Marta. How are you?
Lovely to have you with us. We hope that you hear us. Where are you? There? Yeah. Hello. We hope that you
I can
can.
hear you. You're gonna
Yeah, we can right now.
Okay, you
Uh,
can hear me.
we can, if possible. Our tech guys will make your voice a bit better right now, and the sound is not so cool, but we can upgrade that definitely. But yeah, everyone, please welcome Marta Geater Piekarska, the director of DAO strategy at ConsenSys. And as she is one of the, let's say, DAO, one of the very, I would say, leaders
Yeah.
in DAO space. And I am very happy also that we have ladies, in DAO space.
Yeah, and I would like to say as well, we also interviewed Martha separately for our internet native show, and definitely she knows a lot about what's happening in the DAO space. And there was a coincidence. They also have DAO Day at ConsenSys. It's a internal event they do, but what a coincidence. So Martha, stage is yours, and please take it away.
Yes,
Thank you.
enjoy.
I have prepared some slides, but I can't share my screen. So if you can change that on your side, or I can just talk without.
Uh, Definitely, our tech can help you here. Just give us a second. But please, you can maybe talk during this moment. They will.
There we go.
Okay, works. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you. So, welcome everyone. As mentioned, my name is Marta Geater Piekarska. I am head of DAO strategy and Web3 engagement at ConsenSys. If you haven't heard about ConsenSys, don't worry. We are probably one of the biggest software companies in the Web3 space. But if you're not very much in the Web3 space, obviously you wouldn't have heard about us. I was asked to give a brief 15-minute keynote on DAOs, what entails to run a DAO, and so on. And I thought that would be good to start with what is a DAO. So actually, if you Google the term DAO, DAO, what you get is a single-edged Chinese sword, primarily used for slashing and chopping. Well, of course, we are talking about decentralized autonomous organization. So what is really a DAO? If you think about it in the where it stems from, or where it started, is the fact that society is an endeavor in human coordination. Governments organize people and the state to serve and provide for welfare of citizens. Politicians organize the constituents they serve. CEOs organize workers and resources to satisfy their customers, right? Everybody kind of builds hierarchies and builds organizations to make running things more efficient. But most of us, the reality is that most of us will never sit in these positions of power. Reasonably, you can only expect to maybe, run your local church group or your local running group, maybe run your family in a way, but we won't all become Elon Musks of this world. And this divide between the coordinators and the coordinated has resulted in a disconnect in values and goals between the two groups. And that's where really DAOs started. They started with the question, what if we actually replace the very hierarchical structure and talk about organizations that are being led by the community, by the group of people, those who are fascinated and excited about the project. And it's a little bit like cooperatives in the past, but now we are using Web3 technology to also embed it with better tools. I like to think of DAOs like an octopus. And if you don't know that, octopus's brain that is located between its eyes and is actually shaped like a donut. And another fun fact, through that donut, through that brain, goes esophagus. So if an octopus eats too big of a thing, it can actually give itself brain damage. But thankfully, biology has evolved such that instead of having the central coordination system in the head, 2/3 of the animal's neurons are in its arms. So when an octopus wants to make a move or pick up a tool, we know that octopus are very, very smart. They actually make decisions with their whole body independently, and each arm can actually work completely independent to the rest of the body, which means that they are really efficient in how they move. And they kind of, there isn't like a strategy. It's not like, oh, I want to go from this point to that point and I'll follow this line. It is much more, I want to go here, and the body will decide how it gets there. So another interesting comparison, there's a great book, Spider versus the Starfish, which talks about open source. And open source is basically where DAOs and Web3 comes from, which talks about the fact that if you cut a spider in half, obviously the spider dies because all of its um, coordination, all of its brain and neurons and everything are in the body. However, with the starfish, because starfish is built similarly to an octopus, if you cut off even a bit of starfish, it can grow back together, grow back a whole animal just from that little bit. And that's why the resiliency of distributed system is so important, or that's why distribution leads to resiliency of systems. You can't, if you have an organization that is run and coordinated by thousands of people, yes, it is a little bit less efficient, like that octopus, it won't take the shortest path. But no matter what happens, there will always be a group that has the full knowledge of what is happening and how to take the organization forward. There are three things that you really need in a DAO. It has to be decentralized. No, it's in the name, right? So their DAOs are not controlled by a single institution like a government or a central bank or a country. And they are divided amongst the variety of computers, networks, and nodes, and most importantly, humans. DAOs are really about humans, just like companies. DAOs are very much a way to coordinate people. Everything else is just, additional bits. They're autonomous and automated, which means that the decision and activity within the network is built into smart contracts and executed without human control. And that's sometimes a misconception because everybody says like, oh, DAOs are just like smart contracts, so machines run DAOs. That's not true. The human aspect, that's humans do the work, humans contribute to the DAO, and humans make the decisions. It's just that instead of having a contract, a handshake, a court ordering to do something, there are smart contracts that execute the decisions. And through the power of blockchain and blockchain technology, they kind of, once something's decided, they automatically get invoked. There is no dispute. And also, DAOs always need to have a goal. If there is no goal, if it's just like, let's hang out together, well, even that is a goal. But if there's no decisions to be made, DAOs are really unnecessary. But there's no one definition of a DAO. There are traditional organizations which have very high control and very small community, all the way to autonomous creation, which has very low control. There is no central control, but everything is about community. And today we see the organizations either starting off as DAOs or being transformed into DAOs, and they sit anywhere on that scale. So if someone tells you that they have the ultimate DAO, that's not true. There isn't such thing. So one of the kind of, in the title, it was the question was, what does it entail to run a DAO? So this is like a 9-step process of how to form a DAO. First, you write a DAO manifesto and a handbook. That's really where you will be collecting people together. That's your mission. That's what will make people stick to your DAO. Then use a controller, which is a platform that allows you to launch a DAO. It allows you to define the governance structure, define the token allocation, and all those things. So it's like there are those also similarly when you want to launch a company, quite often you will find another company that will launch your company for you. They will do all the paperwork. So that's what a controller does. Then you set up the Discord server and Telegram channel, so the communication part to get more people working. You raise initial funds. That's usually done through like a seed round or friends and family, or maybe the core contributors just chip in. That's not your token launch yet. That's just so that you have basis for existing. And then you create the gating method for joining, which is usually something like a limited launch or creating a token launch event. Sometimes it's actually just nomination of membership, so there is no token involved. And then you deploy the DAO treasury, you set up a structure around how to manage treasury. And that's again, I could do a whole different talk about that because it's very important to obviously manage the treasury, but it's run by participants. Like every of those steps is usually run already by the growing community. So maybe the DAO manifesto will be written by the founder and 2 or 3 of his friends or the funding team, but very soon they start acquiring more participation and then get engaged. Then more people get engaged, and DAOs evolve. DAOs are very flexible. So you start with a certain set of principles on how your DAO works, and very soon you'll see people saying, "Oh, you know what? Maybe we should change this. Maybe we shouldn't have such a long voting period. Maybe we shouldn't have this membership tier. We should have it slightly different." So that's kind of the structure of running a DAO and very basic principles that really allows you to get it off the ground and build the community. If you look at the comparison between DAOs and enterprises, traditional hierarchy will have a president and CEO and then a set of VPs of like HR, finance, marketing, legal team, planning or strategy, R&D, and so on. DAOs run through guilds or sub DAOs. So the really important thing here is that these are those concentric circles that kind of sometimes overlap, sometimes don't overlap at all. But these are the kind of sub-communities within the organization, and they're all equal. They all have equal say, and so, well, actually, they have the first say in their topic, but guilds don't compete with each other. They collaborate with each other, if anything. But the reality is that in order to launch a successful DAO, you have to run it just like a regular business. Maybe you don't have sales, but you have something that's called more like biz dev. Marketing usually is expanded to marketing and PR with DAOs. Instead of having a product team, you'll have the platform and DAO operations team. The development and technology will become technology and execution. And then finally, instead of finance, you'll have treasury. And you don't have HR, but you have community management. And actually, that's really important because you, instead of managing, a company of 1,000, 100, small DAOs that just start have 10,000 participants already. So it's very different, and the different methods of managing community. And what is more important, while companies sign contracts with their employees, so there's a certain contractual obligation, and there is an incentive for people to keep the job, to do a good job, and so on. Because of the flexibility of DAOs, and because of the fact that we don't sign contracts with our members, it's kind of very much like a volunteer group. So you have to really align the incentives and really align the understanding of what is it that you want to do, and recognize your contributors, because otherwise you lose your community. And the DAO tooling choices are vast and very complex. When building a traditional web or mobile application, you will depend on a handful of building blocks like the API and app servers, authentication layer, database, client frameworks, file storage, and so on. On the other hand, in Ethereum, which is the underlying network that all DAOs run on, you have smart contracts, you have the blockchain protocol, layer 1, layer 2, side chains, and so on, test nets, blockchain development environment, nodes, decentralized storage versus traditional databases, identity and custody around wallets, and then front end as well. And Web3 stack is pretty extensive. And then on top of that, you have the DAO stack, right? Because Web3 stack is the underlying kind of the network level stuff. And then DAOs need their own frameworks, generators, aggregators, and so on. If you look at the plethora of DAOs that are out there, and there are over 5,000 DAOs launched already, you can split them into different types. You'll have your impact DAOs, you have your social DAOs, media, protocol, education, service, grants, and collector. And which one of them has a different category of purpose, if you will. So for instance, the impact DAOs really focus on delivering impact. They're like social impact DAOs that really try to raise funds for the Ukraine or fight the climate change and things like that. And these are people who are really passionate about those topics, but also will have a different set of requirements around their organization than, for instance, an education DAO that is focused on educating people or collecting people that are educators and creating materials for education. You know, Shifi is a collective that focuses on kind of females in or female identifying people in decentralized finance. And then you have service DAOs, like for instance, RateGill or LexDAO, which provide services. Like we already have a layer of or teams that are working on providing services, just like in a regular world, you'll have your AWSs and your software providers or developer companies. We have that in DAOs that do it in a Web3 native way. And then an interesting one also is the collector DAOs, which is a collector, and there are also kind of investment DAOs, which are groups of people that recognize that individually they wouldn't be able to afford, you know, buying a painting or investing in a company. But if we have enough people chipping into that bucket, then we can collectively decide where do we invest and share the rewards of it. So it's really, I hope like you're seeing that there is a reason to have a DAO in everything, as long as you really want to work with other people. And then coming back to kind of the core of how the DAO stack looks like, or what are the elements that you need to do to run a DAO. There are frameworks, generators. Generators are the platforms that allow you to launch a DAO. Aggregators that allow you to observe the DAO ecosystem. Then there's the governance aspect, which is really important. And again, a whole different topic and big topic there. Then there are the operations that allow you to efficiently run your DAOs. Community is very important, as I mentioned. Treasury, another important thing. And then identity access. And I'll leave you with this quote that really shows you what is the most important aspect of building a DAO. If we want to go fast, go alone. And if we want to go far, go together. I think that's really why we believe in DAOs. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. And I think you missed your intro. Did you introduce yourself?
Well, I just said that I work in ConsenSys. I didn't say much more than that.
Okay. So definitely check her out on LinkedIn. She's definitely a great deal than just working at ConsenSys. And thank you for bringing this octopus example. Actually, we didn't know about that earlier. So thank you, Marta, once again. And yeah, Astra, what's
I'm
next?
really sorry I can't be with you in person. I wish I could come.
Oh, let's do it next time.
Next time.
Thanks.
We'll plan that.
And we hope you can still be with us online and see how the discussion goes further. But if not, have a great day there. Thank you so much.